That looks awfully familiar.
Yeah, it does.
Cameras are on, you are now live.
Looks like it goes with the item from the last minutes. Thank you. I'll probably put my mouth anywhere, Katie.
So I'd like to start the meeting and make a motion to go into exec.
Second.
All in favor?
Hey.
You want to join us across the hall? We can, or actually, no, let's step across the hall.
If we do it here, you would be on TV, and I wouldn't be a personal interview. Camera over there.
You're not on camera.
I would announce that the Board of Trustees is going into executive session at this time. The microphones will be off. with them when I set up.
I figured he could have this room long enough to know which chairs were colored, so. I mean, that's a big color scheme here.
There may not be any reason why I have this. No, it says
So that's
TO.
supposed to be,
Board
I'm
approved
adding that to the
TO.
agenda.
That's me. Unless it's Tim Robbins.
So no one else has copies of that, right?
Yes.
Is this TR? Is that
Yeah,
you or me?
that's me.
Well, do you want to sign it or you want to sign it?
You signed it. I already signed it. That's from last week.
Yes.
So that's the resolution that we need to approve tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
So what did you guys find out about this?
It was not, it was emailed on January 24th, not appear on the agenda for January 27th. And Mark Lauer says you need it, so certainly it's for you, whatever you'd like to do.
Forget. Okay.
I need it.
Thanks for coming, gentlemen.
It's gonna be a random crowd.
Okay, we're ready, we're ready.
Do we have police ready to intervene?
Yeah, they look pretty safe, I don't know.
Yes?
So, I motioned that we went out of exec, Dennis seconded it. Did you get that? So let's stand for the pledge to start.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I need to add a few things to this agenda. We have an intermunicipal agreement between the Village of New Paltz and Ulster County regarding the Carmine-Liberta Bridge. I want to add that as item number 21 to the agenda. And item number 22, I would like to add another resolution related to the tax lien foreclosure sale that the county will be holding in April. And item number 23 is a resolution regarding the small cities grant for approximately $600,000 that the village was awarded regarding the DEC consent order for sewer. Then I had, let me see here, sorry. Two other discussion items I want to add to the end of the agenda. One is Dan Torres said he was going to provide us with an update regarding the ENCB and their thoughts on this concept of village planning board review by the ENCB. You can add that after that other resolution I added. Additionally, I wanted to have a discussion about the town and village share of sales tax revenue that is collected by the county and sent to the town of New Paltz. And I was also going to provide a very brief update on the meeting that I had yesterday with Peter Kempner, one of the owners of the property in front of the post office, regarding the public square concept that the SUNY professors have been wrestling with. So I'd like to make a motion to accept.
We still need to add the motion from Mark Lauer with the secret.
Isn't that what I added when I said $600,000 small cities grant?
Yes, Your Honor, that is, but you also have been requested by Mr. Flowers to have a motion to go out and advertise for
The engineers?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It's already on the agenda. That's on the agenda for item 15.
Can I do a quick update also of a conversation with Celia Cuomo about the memorial for Maurice Whiteman?
Great, we can add that to the agenda as well.
Number 9, is that just an announcement, or is that something new to discuss?
It's mostly an announcement and some clarification.
Okay.
But I'd also add just I would like to put on the future agenda, so I want to give at least a mention on tonight's about the safety committee that I've been investigating.
You want to put that on the agenda for 224?
Just, yes,
Okay, we can add that.
okay.
All right, so I have a motion to accept this agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any announcements from the board? Any public comment? Okay, so let's jump right into, we have a presentation from David Shepler and his team of consultants regarding a development project. So I'll let you guys take it. David, we just need you to use the microphone.
Okay, which one of you will be presenting?
Maybe spin the design so the camera can see it.
What's the best way to do this?
Yeah, let's, because we have this surveillance camera that's
Want me to put it that way?
peeking in at us.
Like behind the podium, sort of? Oh, or even, I would go, see if you can go like here. Okay. So this, I don't know how much of it will be picked up.
Is that getting picked up on the screen?
It is now.
I can move and you can put the easel here.
So it's good.
I don't know that you would even be able to.
Yeah.
see
It's on the
it,
screen,
right?
but you're not.
Okay, but if I
So-
stand here,
You're,
You could be
I can stand on this side.
you could be a
Beautiful.
haunting presence.
Maybe Don, can sort of- maybe
Yeah,
you guys
happy
can sort of
to.
shift that way a little bit. I'm not talking directly.
Scoot.
Okay. So,
Just use the mic so we can, they'll,
sit it here, is that fine?
perfect. You want to talk into it, it's good to
Tough? Okay.
pick up your voice if you talk into it,
Right.
otherwise it could be iffy.
Okay, is this good? All right. So, Mayor Rogers, board members, I appreciate you having me here tonight. I just wanted to talk to you directly because there's a lot of talk about this project, as I'm sure you're aware. And I just wanted to give you a chance to ask questions and get a sense of it right from the founder's mouth, right? And I have two partners, Keith Leibold, Anthony Abbey. I'm the founding partner, as well as the managing director of or managing partner for this effort. We're calling it Zero Place, and we're really excited to be the anchor project for the new NBR zone. We've designed it to be right in the wheelhouse of NBR, as you'll see here, okay? So what I'd like to do is talk about the overall concept, what inspired it, the energy features of it, how we imagine blending it with the surroundings and the rail trail, and a couple other features that might be of interest to you, okay? So, yes.
The microphone is on with the buttons, that's on.
It is up.
Perfect,
Okay.
We don't have to
Yeah.
be sure, we couldn't be sure. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm sure all of you are aware that we're talking about the former STS property at 32 North and Mulberry Street. What you're seeing here is the footprint of the Zero Place building with the adjacent parking lot, which was the park and ride. We're largely leaving the park and ride untouched, with the exception of creating more permeable surface, adding trees, beautifying it, and adding some more parking by making it a unidirectional flow as opposed to bidirectional, to pick up a few more parking spaces. We're hoping to add parking along the street as well on 32 North, as well as some handicap and possibly an electric car charging station on the Mulberry side. And we've conferred with Blue Twilliger on this, and he's fine with, at least he's given a positive indication that he believes this is reasonable, all things considered.
David,
Yeah.
have you spoken with the county at all
Yes.
about their EV initiatives?
About EV specifically.
Yes, because they're interested in working with private business who are interested in installing EVs, so that might be something for you to
That'd be fabulous, because I'm
investigate.
okay. I will look into that. We've definitely been conferring with the DOT along the way. We had a meeting with the county planning board, and they were present, and they were very positive and gave us a number of directions to follow, and we've been communicating with them all along. So, but I will I'll look into that. Thanks. Okay, so that sort of sets the table. Now let me show you the actual building. So before I put these pictures up, we invested a fair amount in 3D renderings, and these are old images that we first presented to the planning board. And I'm going to point out a few features that are no longer the case, and then I'll take you to the drawings that are accurate today. And they particularly in terms of the rooftop features. For those of you who read the article, there was some concern about the overall height, and I'll show you why. So this is Zero Place set in a real image of 32 North and Mulberry Street. And you can see that, of course, it's a mixed-use first floor with 3 floors of residential. We're anticipating 24 two-bedroom units and 24 one-bedroom units, equipped with very high-quality features, from washer and dryer in the units, granite countertops, nice features in the kitchens, 7 affordable housing units among those 48, and accessible units, as well as an elevator, which is really key to this 4-story building for making it accessible and making it functional for elderly folks as well. I'm going to really be talking about this elevator piece because this really drives aspects of the rooftop features.
How did you arrive at the 7 affordable units?
15% was our understanding of was the requirement for affordable housing. Originally, as I understood, the law was 10%, but it was revised upwards to 15%. Is my understanding correct?
I'm not certain.
Yeah. I'd actually like confirmation of that. We were told that by the planning board, but I have not seen it.
Right now.
Yeah, I have not seen it. I have not seen it expressed in the code anywhere. But anyway, that's what drove that number. Okay. So now let me show you, let me speak to the energy features, which is a really big part of this building, and that's why it's called Zero Place. And my company is called Net Zero Development LLC, because one of the big drivers and goals of this thing is to create a zero energy structure. And by that we mean that that the building produces more energy over the course of the year than it consumes. I live in a zero energy home in the development behind Town Hall, right off of Bonnecue View.
Yes.
And the whole idea was, one thing that really drove me is not everybody can afford a home like I can, like I have, but much more people can afford apartments units like this and live in a similar way in terms of sustainability, in terms of sort of energy efficiency. So that was the genesis of this project. So what we have here is Zero Place from the air, and what you can see is about 188 kilowatts worth of solar, which to my understanding is probably one of the largest arrays in all of Ulster County once it's built. Mayor Rogers informed me of a larger project, just a pure solar field somewhere in Ulster County that is under consideration now. But as I understand it, there's not a larger solar array than what will be on this building. So we're really trying to put solar absolutely everywhere we can, because that's the only way. I'm sorry? Correct. There's solar on these 3 awnings. We're considering placing it also on the lower awning, and in fact, we've even extended these awnings to go all the way across to fit more solar on it, instead of having gaps, as you see here. We will not be putting solar on the lower awnings around the east and west side because that's inefficient. You're only going to get a minimal amount of exposure over the course of a day. So you really need to be on the south side and the north. Unfortunately, the existing parking area is to the north of the building, or we would probably be considering putting more solar in the parking area. In the future, we may consider that. It's an investment that we're considering. Now, on the north side of the building, and this is where the source of some of the concerns that the planning board raised come from. Originally, because we have to place the elevator somewhere other than the far north end of the building, we pushed it as far north as it can be without violating other aspects of the code. We get shading from that structure. And in order to have it, and you need to have an elevator or at least a stairwell to access the rooftop. And in order to sort of trade off accessibility to the rooftop for a number of reasons that I'll speak to, and maximum solar exposure, we decided to build this awning to bring the solar array up so that it's not shaded by that structure. The concern that was raised by the planning board, in particular Liz Horshaw, was that, wow, this looks like a pretty big structure and gives the appearance of a fifth story. We've since revised that, and I'll show you what the new drawings look like to basically eliminate this awning, but to still try to capture as much solar as we can. We lose a little bit by going to this new direction, but we still capture quite a bit while not having this very large structure. Now, we must retain the stairwell and elevator structure in order to make that top floor accessible, but it's pulled a good 30 feet off the edge of the building, so it's not visible from anywhere but quite a distance from the building itself. Okay. Now, the code allows very clearly, and in fact encourages, rooftop uses, from rooftop terraces, from rooftop gardens, those sorts of things, and excludes very specifically things like stairwells and elevators and other rooftop structures like cooling towers, etc., from counting towards the height limit of the building. This building, let me actually go to the drawing now. So this is the new drawing. What you can see is that the awning is gone. What we have retained in terms of above parapet solar is one solar array to the far north side of the building. And the reason that it's structured that way is because we can't lay solar close to the roof level because of the shading of this structure. We put it as far back as we could, and we created an incline so that we could capture a good, I think we could fit nearly 20 kilowatts of solar on the far north side. We intend to make this a very attractive feature from the ground, but this is the one aspect other than the elevator that will exceed the parapet level of the building. The code says that the total aggregate amount of features above the 50-foot building requirement cannot exceed 10% of the footprint of the building, of the rooftop, and this does not. The combination of this structure and this solar array does not exceed 10%. So everything is within code.
So did you respond to Liz from our planning board's comment about so you've actually reduced the amount of solar to make sure that the building wasn't as tall as Liz was expressing concern about?
The building's height, the technical height of the building has not changed. It's about 46 feet 8 inches. It's actually almost 4 feet below code, below the maximum code limit. What we're referring to are what's called the excluded features, those things that extend beyond that, which include parapets and these roof structures such as cooling towers, stairwells, etc.
Got it.
Yeah. And so we have one. Yep.
Done, Mike.
Yeah, thanks.
Did you say the elevator structure is within code? 'Cause it looks pretty
Correct.
tall. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, that was a concern.
Yeah, and so elevators, I'm learning a lot about this. I'm not a developer by trade, right? I don't know what I'm doing here. But what I have learned is that elevators require about 13 feet, because, so say the elevator releases you at your height, right? So you have a height of the ceiling of the elevator, and then you have all the mechanicals above. The beam that is the structural support for the elevator shaft is above that, and so there's only so much you can do. You've got to allow that ability if you're going to have rooftop features. So we are as low as we can possibly be while having an elevator on the top. What's deceiving about a 2D picture like this is you're seeing the full profile. You're not going to be able to see this thing that's 30 feet back from the road. It's impossible. What you will be able to see it from a great distance back, like perhaps well up 32 North, but you're not going to see it from anywhere near the building. Whereas when we had this awning going through the roof edges, that's quite visible from everywhere, right? So we're trying to address both concerns. We're trying to address the explicit requirements of code and also these fuzzier things about, sort of visual appeal and so forth, right? And I think, and Liz Horshaw was responding sort of to both of those. It turns out that the only reason this is not in code, it's not that it's too high. It's that we discovered that we actually exceeded that 10% maximum allowable structure above the building height for these purposes. Okay. And we have presented this new design to the planning board. We're going to go through it in great detail when we actually submit the formal application, which is in 2 weeks. Okay. All right. So the only other thing I want to say is tell you about is this aspect of the building. This is a view from the rail trail. Kind of ignore the landscaping here because this was just very roughly done. This is not what it's going to look like on the ground. We have a full landscaping plan. We've talked to the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail Trust and Association. They've written us a letter in support of this project and are encouraging us, as is the planning board, to blend the landscaping and improve the landscaping from the rail trail, which is immediately adjacent to the building, and blend it to create kind of a public space, much like what you see on Water Street Market. Improve the drainage of the area, clear out the kind of underbrush, and if you ever walk up there, you'll see how kind of nasty and unkempt it is, and turn it into a nice place where people can engage the retail on the ground level and park their bikes and enjoy that portion of the rail trail.
May I ask a question
Yeah.
about drainage along the rail trail? Have you
Yeah.
thought at all about green infrastructure features to help with drainage?
Yes.
Can
Yes,
you explain
we're
that a little bit?
Yeah. Unfortunately, my engineer's not here who could go into that in depth. We are planning to place water gardens, a number of different features that will improve the permeability of land. First of all, you should know that we're increasing the permeable space of the existing lot by 15%, one. Two, we're going to be installing various features along with improved draining that will improve the retention of water there and reduce the amount of flow into the wetlands, the neighboring wetlands. Now, fortunately, this place is actually pretty well structured as it is. There's some really nice wetlands between if you go up the rail trail a little distance, you'll notice that there's some reedy wetlands that retain water nicely before dumping it into the stream and ultimately to Wallkill. So it's a pretty good place to start, but we're definitely going to be improving it. And we can go into much greater details if you're curious on that.
What about any gray water systems?
We've thought about that, and we're still considering it because our goal is, at minimum, we are going to achieve LEED Silver with this building. We believe LEED Gold is going to be almost a no-brainer for us given the amount of investment we have in the energy features. But we are striving, we hope to even achieve the highest levels of LEED Platinum. That may require that we do a little bit of gray water stuff, but we haven't figured that out yet. If we can do it and we can keep all this stuff, in our pretty tight budget, I'd love to do that kind of thing. But I can't give you a commitment of that yet. Yeah. Okay. Parking, yeah. That's really all I have. I mean, I can speak a little bit about parking if you're curious about that. But we do plan to have EV charging stations. We're going to have plenty of handicap parking. We're trying to get it located close to the retail so folks can pull in, consume the retail pieces of this, with ease. And increasing the amount of parking in the neighboring parking area.
How many parking spots do you have with the current design?
The current design is at 84.
Does that count the ones on 32?
Correct.
Or just in the park and ride?
No, total,
Okay. You said
including
80.
the street parking.
You said how many?
84.
84.
Yeah. Now, some of that is contingent upon whether DOT approves some of the sightline issues. We may lose a parking spot or two along we may lose, you'll see there's 8 spots, parallel parking spots at 32 North. Depending upon how DOT considers the sightlining issues for pedestrians as well as for people pulling off Mulberry Street may affect the amount that we can keep here. But we're trying to be as aggressive as we can for that purpose.
And how many retail businesses are located on the first floor?
It's 14,500 square feet. Retailers can cut that up as they wish. I'm anticipating, I don't know, somewhere on the order of 7 to 8 retailers, but it could be as few as 4, as many as 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to commend you on your approach with the community on this. I know there is a lot of concern from people in the community, and I think anytime you have change, people automatically, kind of raise their eyebrows. But I would just want to commend you on your approach, putting it out on Facebook, inviting people to the site, and being as upfront and honest is refreshing and appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate that. And I have some great stories of how it's been received by the public, so I'm pleasantly surprised at people's reception to this. And the list of people who want to sign up for these units is growing by the day.
So you said 48 units, 7 affordable?
Correct.
Right, so I double checked in the code, so section 132 of our code, section 132.3, housing unit standards, you're correct, it's 15%. And when this number is not a whole number, it will be rounded up to the next whole number, and that's what you did. Right.
Yeah.
So 15% of the units will be affordable.
Right. Yeah. Great, thank you. What is the number? 132, just so that I...
Oh, section 132-3.
That's true.
That's where they refer to the 15%.
Great.
So, David, if your ears were ringing last night, we were speaking about this project just a little bit at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. And this is the first project in this new district that we have very high hopes for.
Right.
And part of the discussion at the Zoning Board of Appeals was over the years, how many dozens and hundreds of variances have been granted, so that there's a lot of the village that is not in compliance with what was desired, but it got built anyway. Because you are the first project in this new zone, I think it's going to be a priority for hopefully for our planning board and the Zoning Board of Appeals to make sure it adheres to the code pretty quickly or pretty closely, very closely, so we don't set precedents.
Yep.
Because you being the first one, if there's a lot of variances granted for you, that kind of sets up for the whole district. So just wanted to let you know that conversation, which was about 30 seconds,
Well,
took place.
Guess what, Don? You'll be happy to know. I'm glad you teed me up. You threw me a softball. We're not asking for a single variance. Every time something has been brought up that indicates that we're short of code, we're fixing it. We're not going to ask for a variance because you know what? I don't want to have to fight it. And the code that's been written, I think, is beautiful and encourages exactly what I want to do. So I'm happy.
Hosanna, thanks.
Yep.
That's great.
All right, any other questions before we move on?
I just want to confirm, I walked on a rail trail yesterday,
Yeah.
quite deliberately looked at this location, and I want to encourage you. I'm very happy to hear that you will adhere to code in every respect and that you don't need to go to ZBA. But I believe that if you can do that, you will very significantly advance the objectives of the NBR district and improve this whole area, including along the rail trail. So thank you.
That's obviously a method to get more speed approval if you don't have variances.
Right, thank you, yep. The MBR is, I think, the greatest asset to improving the village that I can imagine, so I'm so glad that it exists.
All right, so thanks, David. Thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
I had emailed some changes in the minutes to Ryan earlier today, so why don't we hold off on 127 minutes until next meeting?
Okay, so I'd like to make I'm gonna amend my motion that we accept the consent agenda.
May I ask, did Brian have a chance to actually address those changes?
No.
No, okay, fine.
So my motion is to accept the consent agenda, but exclude the minutes from 127.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next business item. This discussion was prompted by our last meeting's discussion about the Wallkill River Alliance and whether they needed liability insurance to continue to meet at Village Hall. And we spoke with our attorney, a few of us, about this concept of requiring groups that are run by volunteers within our community and whether they should be required to have an additional insurance rider to hold a meeting at Village Hall. And I think a few of us were thinking that, well, we already pay for liability insurance, and I didn't really have anything else to add, but I'm very comfortable with the idea that we don't stop volunteer groups from meeting if they do not have additional liability insurance.
I support that.
If our attorneys are in favor of this, then I'm certainly in favor of it with them.
Right, so maybe we could ask Ryan to communicate with the Wallkill River Alliance in particular and let them know that they're welcome to continue to meet here and they don't need to jump through the hoops of getting additional liability insurance for their group, because they should be covered by, and we actually did receive a note from our insurance underwriter that folks who do meet in this facility are covered by our liability insurance. So next item, I wanted to share with you about an interesting project that our building department is working on. We reached out to the town assessor's office and asked for a list of all properties in the village, and we asked for them to include how many bedrooms are in each property. Because what we wanted to do is we wanted to compare that town database with our village database, in that we have rental registration where landlords and income investors who own properties fill out a form and they include the number of bedrooms in their property. Because what we wanted to do was compare the number of bedrooms that a property had as far as the assessor was concerned with the number of bedrooms that our building department had listed. And even within the first day, we were able to identify several properties that, let's say, were listed with the county and being assessed as if they were a 3 or 4 bedroom home, but they were actually for instance, a 6 bedroom house. So I'm not exactly sure how the assessor goes ahead and makes changes like that, but I am of the mind and support the idea that if you have a 6 bedroom income property, you should be assessed as if you have a 6 bedroom income property as opposed to a 4 bedroom income or 4 bedroom income property. And I think this is a great example of the town assessor's office and our village building department working collaboratively to try to level the playing field for all residents within the town. And folks should pay taxes based on a fair assessed value of their properties. But just wanted to share that with our board and publicly. If anyone has any questions or suggestions on how we could make that effort even more robust, it's appreciated if you have any
I
ideas.
congratulate the mayor on pursuing this. Looks like an arcane notion, but is actually of some importance to us.
Ditto.
Okay, next topic. I circulated some research that I did where I was trying to understand how much water we use as a municipality. When I describe our municipal water use, I'm talking about the village, town water districts, and the college. And we receive revenue from the majority of our users. Generally, I've been told that even with an old infrastructure like we have, which is approximately 100 years old of water infrastructure, you should have about 85% of your water usage being metered and receiving revenue for that water usage. And the 15% of non-revenue water usage would be used for, let's say, testing fire hydrants or fighting fires or water fountains in Hasbrook Park, or just general water use. For instance, the DPW truck was filled up with water recently to go and flush out the sewer line. The reason they have to use potable water is because they were using a truck that can only have potable water inside the truck, so you could never add gray water to that type of truck, but that's kind of on an aside. But so there's definitely water that will always be used in a community like ours that we do not receive revenue for. So if, you know, we should be using, or we should be receiving revenue for about 85% of our water, but when I looked at the numbers, it was a very troubling amount. We were actually only receiving revenue for between 55 and 60% of the water that we're using. And we use about 320 million gallons per year. So what is additionally troubling about that is if you look at the rate of change over a 5 or 6 year period, and I looked at a few different iterations, like even over a 5-year period, the amount of water that's metered went up by 6%. So I would have assumed that the amount of water that is used would also go up by 6%. But unfortunately, the amount of water that is being used went up at a much faster rate than the amount that is being metered. It actually went up during that same 6-year time period by 35%. And I took a look at the town water districts and how accurate those readings are. And they've actually been pretty static in terms of how much we receive in terms of revenue from the town water districts 6 years ago versus now. So it's not a situation where we're receiving less revenue from the town district. I believe, and I also believe this after attending a conference about identifying leaks that Tom went to, and John Lowler on our DPW staff also attended, that it's very common to have leaks in a system that are very fine, and it's not like you're losing a tremendous amount of water, but just the ongoing leak can be very expensive. And this is a troubling problem that we have, especially if we're noticing that it's only becoming worse. So one thing that we are doing, or that we are going to consider doing, and we just received yesterday a report from our engineer to consider using the effluent from our sewage treatment plant and collecting it as gray water to then use during the operations of our sewage treatment plant. Because currently we use potable water to scrub down the mechanicals at the sewage treatment plant. And it does not need to be potable water to rinse away mechanicals at the sewage treatment plant. So we've had our engineer come up with a price, and the total cost of that project would be about $97,000. It's a nearly $80,000 project. So then adding in a 10% contingency plus about $9,000 worth of engineering fees, we're talking about a $97,000 project to build a gray water system where we could collect water instead of just shooting it into the walk hill, using that effluent for the rinsing of mechanicals at the sewage treatment plant. So that's something that we'll probably be considering, whether we include that in the upcoming budget or try to pursue a grant or financing opportunity. That's something that I just wanted to include in your thoughts.
Well, I think that's really excellent that you're taking the initiative and looking into that. I think the real culprit is the old pipes and the fact that we have 100-year-old pipes and almost 100-year-old pipes, and they are leak. I mean, they leak, and it's incredibly expensive to do those repairs and replacements.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to go after it from every angle.
What I'm hoping is that by identifying the amount of loss that we have, that would actually strengthen a grant opportunity or the an entity that would be reviewing a grant application.
Yeah, I don't want to just be a fawning subject here, but I want to congratulate the mayor again for pursuing something which is easy not to look into, just because you accept it as loss that comes year by year by year. And I want to also call attention to the fact that as part of our backup water supply project, which we're still in the design phase of, one feature of that is in a water management effort, so that we have a consultant already working with us on water management issues, including leak detection, which is, as you say, a very common problem, especially when you have old systems, old piping. You would not be shocked to be losing 5 to 10% of your water. We appear to be losing more than that. And every gallon of the potable water that we lose, we're paying for. So it might very well pay us to invest a relatively small amount. And of course, it would certainly pay us to seek a grant for implementing this kind of a program that could realize very real savings year after year for as long as we can see down the pike.
And I'd have to commend our Public Works Department, because, with all of this interest in water and where we could identify better water management practices, I would single out John Lawler, who's been with our DPW department for a while, and he actually took it upon himself to take a look at the water usage at our sewage treatment plant, and he noticed that on a daily basis there were days where the water usage approached 50,000 gallons per day, and he said to himself, well, that seems a little high. Let me turn off some valves and see, how much water would we be using if I just turned off all the valves? And he was able to identify a few leaks. I believe it was a total of 3 leaks that were identified, and the DPW staff went ahead and repaired those leaks. And now, even on the peak days, we're using a fraction of that 50,000 gallon per day. So we're continuing to monitor that on a daily basis, but I think immediately we've identified a way to save a significant amount of water. And then, through those discussions, we were thinking, well, how could we save even more potable water? And that's where we came up with this idea of a gray water system. When we met with the gentleman who's performing the analysis of where we could how we could encourage conservation, we were wrestling with this idea of, so we're all familiar with electric bills where it says, well, you use this many kilowatt hours per month or quarter, and your neighbor used X. And studies show that that's a great way to get people to conserve. People don't conserve for the right reasons generally, but they conserve when they think that there's a competition amongst neighbors.
Wow.
And the utilities know that, and that's why that information is included in your utilities bill. So I actually, I took the water data for all of our neighbors, and it would be fun to single out and say, well, Tom's using this amount, and Tim and Don are using that amount, but we can't, for privacy reasons, talk about how much individual residents are using. But I was thinking, and I would be interested in the board's thoughts, maybe even just doing it by street. So you could say, like, Tricor Avenue, on average, is using X number of gallons per day. You know, how much are you using? Or Prospect Street is using X number of gallons per day, or the average Prospect Street user. And there's some you know, aberrations that you have to be mindful of. You know, that's not a perfect science, because, you know, you could have one person living in a home versus a few people living in a home. But I think at least it kind of stimulates the thought. But, you know, I'm curious what you guys think in terms of how we could better present that data, or if there's another way that would maybe resonate with folks and encourage conservation.
It's an excellent idea to try and make people more aware of their usage. I wonder about breaking it down by street, because like you said, all homes are not created equal. You know, you may have 20 bedrooms in one house versus 3 in another. I wonder if maybe, especially with all this bedroom data that you've been reviewing, we can do the average household uses this many gallons per bedroom, and then people can use that to apply to their own situation. Because the Central Hudson bills that you're referring to, it doesn't compare it to everyone in the neighborhood. It says to similar homes in your neighborhood.
Well, so it's amazing how predictable the water usage numbers are in terms of number of residents. Blue was sharing with me that the number he always used was about 55 gallons per day, and just from my review of our village data, I kind of feel like it was 50, and it's uncanny. You know, you could tell me how many people you have living in your home, and I'll tell you how many. You know, just multiply that by 50, and that's your usage per day. And obviously, you know, if you have a teenager, you're going to use a whole lot more water. You know, if you travel a lot, you're going to use a whole lot less water. So there are, but it's pretty compelling that when you use the 50-gallon per day per person, that will get you pretty close to you know, a predictive number.
Okay. I'm curious with everything that we've been going through with the New York City DEP. I know that water conservation was one of the points that was supposed to be a part of the whole deal with them, and I'm just curious if we could look to them for, you know, financial backing, you know, toward whatever we would want to be doing. And I know Tom is probably much more well-versed with this than any of us.
Well, the mayor was just alluding a short while ago to the fact that we have a consultant who has been brought in already. His name is Peter Meyer. And we're in touch with him now, and in fact, we're providing him right now with a significant amount of data points on water usage that the mayor has been collecting. And yeah, he is a person who has obviously got a lot of experience with water management, not just in leak detection, but also in conservation efforts. So we'll be looking to him for a report that we hope to implement when we go into what's called the construction or implementation phase of the backup water supply project after the design phase is finished. We're not finishing the design phase, but we're very well into the design phase now. We hope to be able to finish it in the predictable future so that we could have the proposals out for the construction and implementation phase during this next during the next half a year. And along with that, we will have the recommendations from Peter Mayer for conservation as well as leak detection and other forms of water management. So we're really coming down to a point where we'll see the results of our efforts in this particular regard.
Great.
And even to quantify and attach a dollar value to the leak leaks that were identified, that were repaired. If we have this target of 5 to 10% conservation, if the numbers of water that we had been using before John Lawler identified the leaks at the wastewater treatment plant, and then when we reduced that, I estimated that it's about an annual savings of $8,000 worth of water that he was basically able to identify, where we should be as a municipality spending $8,000 less just by fixing those 3 leaks. So,
And as fate would have it, I just happened to receive at work today an email from the American Waterworks Association. They're giving a webinar on leak detection and how to prevent it and how to remediate it for $120. I don't know if that would be information that our staff already has, but I emailed it to the mayor late today, so if it's helpful.
yeah, I think that's a great idea. We can share it with Blue and John and see if they would be interested in participating in that webinar.
And I was struck, just on a personal note, by the usage, which is not unusual, 55 gallons per person per day. The World Health Organization, and I'm involved in other communities around the world, they say it's 10 gallons a day is the amount that one human being really needs to wash and cook and drink. So it's we are indeed privileged in the United States of America.
Indeed.
We're especially skilled at consuming
Yeah.
anything, water, anything. Okay, so any other thoughts about how we could present that data to the community? So sure, we can tell folks, take a look at your bill. Are you using, 50 to 55 gallons per day on average? Or, do you have any other thoughts about how to, put this information together to make it kind of tell a story and resonate?
If you look at the Central Hudson bill that just happens to be right
Yeah.
here, you can see that it shows you rolling over the year what you're using, so you can compare your current water bill to a year ago to keep it relevant data. That might be something we would look into it.
Yeah, except I'm not gonna calculate each person's water bill.
Why not?
I think, though, that the Central Hudson presentation of information is, as you suggested before, pretty effective. I look at it and am gratified as to where I fit, and I'm attentive to the use of power. To invent a new system without input, data input from some source that says, no, this will work better than that, I would try to emulate what they're doing in some way that would be your kickoff point. I mean, when do you get started? You get started with something you have some evidence works. And we have some evidence that this works. I would use that then as a way to get started, unless we had some national input that said, okay, another way of presenting data works better. If we have some input, say from Peter Meyer, about a process that works better or a presentation, then let's do that.
Okay, so I'll share my data with Peter Meyer and see what he suggests.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the Treasurer's Department goes about preparing the water bills, but if there is software that would be able to easily, without manually doing it, look back 1 year and say this was your water bill during this month last year and put that on the bill, if that's easy to do, if the data is there and the software would allow it, that would be another way to go.
Yeah, we just took the data from the accounting software and migrated it over to Excel, and then I just fooled around with it. But yeah, someone probably could build a model to look at that data. Because what I was just comparing is like summertime data versus fall data, which was really fascinating because we have plenty of homes that are occupied during the fall that are not occupied during the summer. So they would be using like 1,000 gallons per quarter during the summer and then 40,000 gallons per quarter of the fall. Whereas like the permanent residents, you know, their summer versus fall usage is pretty static.
Even the permanent residents may have differences. I mean, I think personally, we have gardens that need to be watered at my home. In the summer, they need to be, and I put in a rain barrel last year as a way of trying to save my own personal water usage. I wonder if there's some sort of rain barrel program we might be able to look into. I don't mind taking that up as
That's
a
interesting.
cause. Or
Ulster
just-
County has had a program in which they have essentially given away rain barrels if you were willing to go to a class. I have done that myself, and we have 2 rain barrels that we use. 55 gallon drums of collectible, and we do that every summer.
Can you send me that information, please, Tom?
I will, yeah.
Thank you.
And there was, I can share with you, Dennis, there was another resident who reached out to me about some thoughts about encouraging, you know, gray water systems and rain barrels. I'll share that name with you, and maybe you could chat with that person directly.
Yeah, Cornell Cooperative has the Master Garden program, and they're based right in Kingston. They have an office in the Kingston Plaza, so they might be a good source to look to for more information along these lines.
Yeah. Another fun water fact that I found out when I was, you know, just thinking about water use is how much water is required to make beer. And both the Gilded Otter and James Walsh from Yard Owl told me that it's about 3 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of beer. It's like 2.8 gallons of water to make a gallon of beer, which is kind of a fun water fact. All right, next topic is this next steps memo we received after the September presentation where the village was awarded a grant from the EPA regarding flood resilience and coastal communities. So we received that report. It was in everyone's packet, and then our planner is interested in making a presentation to summarize that report and share it with the public. So the thinking was, let's just set a date. Do we want to put that on the 24th of February agenda, or do you want to do it in early March? Let's do it in the first meeting that we have in March, just to give David some additional time. So Ryan, you can add that to the agenda and let David know.
And I noticed the report issues 2 items in the challenges department, and one is aging infrastructure, as we've just been talking about.
Yeah, I was at the NICOM conference on Monday, and very interested in hearing from the the federal agencies responsible for providing grant money or financing for big infrastructure projects, you know, because we do have at least $4 million worth of water-related projects hanging over our head. So I've been discussing with our grant writer, Mark Blauer, about how to approach the USDA. That's the same outfit that's providing the financing for the water filtration systems that are going to be updated up at Mountain Rest Road, and that again is another large expenditure in the neighborhood of $4 million to update those filtration systems. Next topic is just an announcement. We had been discussing the recruitment day for firefighters, but also the auxiliary fire department members. Our fire department is making an effort to have folks who want to participate or contribute to the fire department. You know, maybe they can, I don't know, be an IT specialist or run and get coffee during fires, but just have an official membership or affiliation. And I think that's a fantastic idea. I imagine there's several people who would be interested in being a part of the fire department without necessarily being a fire truck driver or firefighter. So, you know, we definitely would love to have more volunteer firefighters, but there's going to be recruitment day, and then the fire department is partnering with our rescue squad. So that's going to take place on Saturday the 24th And I believe we discussed this event at our last meeting, and Dennis brought up the concern, or just the challenge that we had last year when this took place, because there was a textile drive taking place at Village Hall in conjunction with the Clean Sweep Day. But fortunately, that's all going to take place on April 30th, the following weekend. So on April 30th, you have Clean Sweep and the textile drive, and on April 23rd, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., we're going to have this section of Plattekill Avenue just in front of the fire department Station 1 building closed for that recruitment day with the fire department and the rescue squad. And then I also wanted to double check, our deputy clerk made a suggestion that we communicate with the Baseball Association that they were made aware that this recruitment day is taking place. Can you just double check that the Baseball Association was communicated with?
Yeah, with that also, I communicated with one of the assistant chiefs about live music, so I'm thinking, being that everything's going to be shut off, perhaps behind the DPW garage, we could have a stage and local bands playing, because, you know, people walking down Main Street are going to hear music and come to see what's going on. So I think that would also be a good thing to add to this.
Sounds nice. Tom's going to update us on this topic regarding the proposed sewer district 7, which would serve the proposed Wildberry development in the town next to the Thruway Toll Plaza. Tom, you want to fill us in?
Yeah, I feel exhausted by this topic. This is a project which is conditional for the backup water supply project, or it's attached to it at least. The Turk property, which we were referring to in the past because of the ownership difference as the Plesser property, is the site of 8 wells from which we expect to extract water. We expect to extract water from 3 of those 8 wells, amounting to 100 gallons a minute for the 10-week shutdown periods. Turk and Wildberry, when it's constructed, will obviously need to have water from those same sources provided through the system that we put in place for them. Attached to that is their need for sewer. So they, along with the water that they can provide through this project, they need to have sewer as well. We have the capacity in our system. The capacity has been confirmed, and they would generate something in the vicinity of 35,000 gallons of sewage a day. We would need to have an agreement that we provide them with that sewage in perpetuity for their commitment to pay for the service. They would also, of course, have to pay for the hookup. So the cost to the village should be 0, except that there is real cost going in perpetuity in the loss of capacity. So we would give up something like 35,000 gallons a day of capacity, which we now have in our existing system without any further improvement.
What's the estimated capacity we currently have?
1.5 million.
No, that's the total capacity.
Total
We're
capacity.
using about 1 million?
We're using up to 1 million. We don't use 1 million
The
every
Speedy's
day.
the Speedy's
but
permit
we
is for 1.5
use-
million.
Yeah, right.
So we have about 500K
We have
in
about
capacity.
500K. So we would be giving up somewhere between 3.5% and 5% of our existing capacity forever but they would be paying for it forever.
And are we discussing dollar amounts or percentages?
The dollar amounts would be set by the 2007 agreement that we have with all other sewer districts. So we would be using the same calculation that we have already been using for every other sewer district. I can't cite you the exact figure, but somewhere in this mess of paper, there are those exact figures. The issue for us right now, I believe, is that we would not be experiencing any net charge to the village, except for the reality of giving up our capacity.
Wasn't there some discussion of the cost to a town sewer district user based on the 07 IMA, and for this new proposed deal would be approximately 150% of what a village user would pay?
The 2007 IMA with the town proposes that the users will pay 1.5 times what the village users pay for sewage.
And what's the reasoning for the premium?
The premium is it's set. It's not set by law, but it's a standard agreement across the state of New York to account for the ordinary maintenance and operation of any sewage plant. The people are going to pay on a if you want a per gallon usage, but we're going to over time see some deterioration in the equipment and so forth that will need to be paid for by the overage of 50%. And as I said a moment ago, this is a standard across the state, and it is the standard that our water and sewer attorney encourages us to maintain.
I don't doubt at all what you said. I do recall that the previous board and mayor had made the statement several times that we were using 1.2 at peak times, and the capacity, total capacity of 1.5. I don't know, what that's just the number I always remembered. But that's not important. We have some capacity.
We have the capacity.
I see the village wastewater plant as being an incredibly valuable commodity, and it's something that that we need. If there is expansion within the village, and we're looking at a new mixed-use zone, which will have, where we talked about 48 units tonight, and I would expect there'll be other units of similar sizes or bigger than what we have now. So we will be needing additional capacity at our village wastewater plant. I question the wisdom of just giving that capacity away. I could be argued to understand and agree with it, but at first glance, it seems like a valuable resource that we have, that we don't have infinite capacity.
Well, I had a similar question, and I asked our water and sewer attorney, Dave Merzig, and he said that when you have this amount of capacity and you have a request to use this amount, he's like, you want to use the capacity that you have and get paid by users of like, it does not make sense to merely just have unused capacity. And I think with whether it's 500,000 gallons per day of capacity that's being used or 300,000 gallons of capacity, we have room to provide 35,000 gallons per day.
Yeah, I would say that there's no prudential issue for us here, and I think it would be misconstruing our current situation to say that we're giving it away. We're selling it.
Well, I appreciate that correction. That's that's a good correction. I guess as a trustee of the village, I want to make sure that what is there for the village residents be there for the village residents if we need it, and that's the concern. We are seeing development on Montague, we're seeing development on Route 32, and I want to make sure that we have what we need for the future.
Well, I think what you also have to consider too is, so at 35,000 gallons per day, the proposed project at Wildberry is a 250-room destination resort with restaurants, and restaurants use enormous amounts of water. I know that just from reviewing our neighbors. You know, how much water do our local restaurants like Bacchus, P&G's, Otter, and McGillicuddy's use? You know, it's uncanny how they all use similarly large amounts of water, and it's night and day their water uses versus a residential property. So here you have a 250-room destination resort serving food, and they're using 35,000 gallons per day. So even if we have a fair amount of build out in NBR, which we're hoping that we do and we're anticipating, you know, I don't know how much we should expect in terms of additional demand on the sewer system from Mr. Shepler's project of 48 units, but I think it should be pretty minimal relative to the proposal of water usage by Wildberry, especially if Mr. Shepler includes any gray water features, as he was saying, are a possibility.
I also think that we should not forget that we are expecting to have full cooperation from the Turk organization in the provision of access to the water through the town, so that we will be the recipients of 100 gallons of water a minute for 1,440 minutes a day.
That we're also buying, though.
That we're buying, but we're buying at a much reduced cost.
It is a reasonable
We
cost.
are not paying at any premium. We're paying at a reduction for this water. So we're getting, I think, several benefits here.
What is it, 50 cents per 1,000 gallons?
Yes, approximately.
Whereas we're currently paying about $1.60 per
Yes.
1,000 gallons
So
when we
we're-
purchase water
we're
from the
really-
DEC.
We're really going to be gaining from this enterprise significantly, both in savings and in sales.
Well, my concern rises in part, you know, we're doing more and more with the town with regard to water and water districts. We made, and I think, you know, I disagreed with it very strongly, we made a commitment that with regard to the new Water District 5, even though it would be located partly in the town and serve largely people in the town, that the village would provide all the repair services. The village DPW would provide repair services. And that's not an issue in the first 5 years, probably. But in the 50th year, that's one hell of a potential expense for the village. And this agreement we're talking about affects all districts in the future as well. We just talked today about the fact that we have leaking infrastructure, and we're going to have large bills conceivably, and hopefully we can get grants. But you know, the responsibility for that infrastructure replacement, and the number I've seen is $6 million, falls squarely on the village. So I just want to be careful that since things have changed in terms of how much of the interaction between the village and the town with regard to water districts, since we know we have potentially a huge expense coming up that currently is going to be borne totally by the village in terms of aging infrastructure, I just want to make sure that we take a look at this and make sure that the formula that made sense in 2007, 1992, before then, that it still makes sense for this new reality. I'm just a little concerned about the economics. What the lawyer said was that his initial feeling is that the current billing formula could be tightened up and might provide a more accurate bill for both the village and the customer. He also, and my concern about use of the wastewater plan comes directly from our attorney, who expressed some concerns that you know, that the reserve capacity is a very valuable resource, et cetera, that should be retained for village use. So I'm not alone in that concern.
Are you talking about Dave Merzick?
Yeah.
Dave Merzick has advised me that we should pursue the creation of this water district.
Well, I just
Okay,
read
but-
his words that he wrote to us.
Yeah, but I think you're just reading an excerpt,
I would
not his
like
full
to
counsel.
confirm the mayor's perception of this. I mean, you can guess that I've spent a fair amount of time in discussion with Dave Merzick, including within the last couple of days. And while I know that he takes great care of the village and exercises prudence in his judgments about what we can and even should do, even though he grants always that the board makes decisions, he doesn't. But he's very careful in his advice to us. And he sees that we have this capacity and that it's a benefit to the village to be able to sell the capacity that it has. We do not, I believe, have any projection that we will be beyond our capacity in our sewer plants in the predictable future. If we were to continue to expand the village, of course, we would have to expect that we would get additional resources from all users, and it would be prudential on our part to plan for increasing the capacity of the sewer plant if we're going to so substantially increase the population of the village.
Well, I like the town. I like our neighbors in the town. But if they're going to be using the municipal water system on an increased basis, now we've got Plains Road and District 6, now we have the water park and District 7. My interest is seeing if, as we move forward, the town can take a proportional additional responsibility when it comes to maintenance and repair of the system. I think the decision to have our DPW take care of the town's water district is I'm very troubled by that.
But you're mixing apples and oranges. There's 150% premium for the sewer usage. So a town district is already paying a premium.
I understand that.
And when you're talking about water, we're buying water at a discount, a significant discount than we would be if we continued to buy water from the DEC.
I think it's very important for us to recognize that the water district that we're talking about, Water District 5, which is the Plains Road area district, will be using water that will be extracted from the well on Plains Road.
Yes.
It's new water. It's not water, it's new water.
It's new municipal water,
It's
yes.
new municipal
Yes,
water. It's
yes.
not water that we have been relying on. And we'll be getting that water during the 10-week shutdown periods and other emergencies that might arise at, again, a significantly reduced cost to the village. The village will be saving money in every usage that we have for the waters on Plains Road.
But we only envision them for 10-week periods, and even during those 10-week periods, it's a finite thing. What I'm talking about is permanent infrastructure repairs, and I just think if the town's going to expand their partnership with the village with regard to the municipal water system, I think at some point, and I think now's a good point, we should have the conversation. Should these percentages be increased? Should there be some discussion of what happens within the next 10 years when millions of dollars need to be expended? Are they going to be our partners then?
Yes.
As they are being our partners now?
Well, I, as you may know, I would take a different tack and hope that they would not only be our partners, but we would be wedded to them. And that there would be one entity, which would be the community of New Paltz, and that we wouldn't have to worry about divvying up between the village and the town, because we would be one entity sharing all of the resources of our community.
We can discuss alternate futures, but
Well,
that might take a while.
We are discussing alternate futures. That's what we're doing right now. We're discussing alternate futures. That is one alternate future that might in fact come about.
Don, I'm also rereading the note from Dave, and I think when he's talking about the wastewater treatment plant reserve capacity is a valuable resource that should be retained by the village use, I think he was discussing that to enforce the idea that you have to charge the 150% premium.
I
Or
believe that's.
not the premium, you have to charge the 150% of the cost versus the same rate that a village resident was paid. That, I think that is the point that Dave was trying to make in this email that you sourced. Because I've spoken with him personally, and I'm very comfortable with the counsel and advice that Mr. Merzick has continually given us. He is a very conservative guy who pounds the table hard when it comes to the village's interests, and I feel very comfortable with the counsel that he's given us on numerous occasions, and as it relates to this proposed sewer district 7. Additionally, in terms of capacity, like even if we have a speedies permit for 1.5 million gallons per day at the wastewater treatment plant on Huguenot Street, we are also looking at improving that capacity via alternative technology. So we have a consulting firm called Dewberry that has been engaged by New York Rising to look at the hardening of our sewage treatment plant. So that's like super low-tech boring stuff where they're just going to build a wall that's going to protect the sewage treatment plant from the flooding. But additionally, Dewberry was also tasked with taking a hard look at, and this is because we asked Dewberry to do this, to look at could we improve capacity by using a greener technology for the processing of sewage. And that's something that they're looking at, and if it seems like it makes sense and it seems like it's permittable by the DEC, we might end up with the opportunity to increase capacity and therefore pursue a speedies permit that's greater than 1.5 million gallons per day.
Well, there's a bit of information I was looking for on the town-village agreement from the most recent one. That references was signed by Mayor West. Is that 2007, I think?
Probably,
Yeah. Don't have it in front of me. It references that it removes from the agreement the provision that was agreed to on a certain date in 1994. And I asked the clerk in reading the package, could we see a copy of what that provision was from 1994? She consulted with the attorneys and looked herself. And I just asked the question this morning and wasn't able to find it. I'd like to see if we could find out what that was, and if I'd like to know what that was, and if it's something that we might want to consider taking another look at. If record search fails, we could always call Mayor Nyquist. He might know. I just
He
curious
might
what
know.
that-
He might,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm just curious what
Yeah.
that would have been that was in place from 1994 through 2007, and then removed. Just
Sure, worth investigating. Okay, so can we put this on the next agenda to vote on the approval of Sewer District 7, and we can all do some additional research on this topic?
sounds great.
Sounds good. The next topic is we received an email from the representative from Gardens for Nutrition. It seems like in January of 2015, the board at that time suggested or made a motion to rename the Gardens for Nutrition.
correct.
And it seems like we're getting some pushback from the folks who run the gardens. It seems like it creates some administrative hassle for them. So they were asking that we rescind that renaming.
I believe that their position was even stronger than that. And they, I think, made a quite good case that the previous board, of which I was a member, was unaware of some of the complications that changing the name might create. And I confess that I was unaware, and no one mentioned any of this at the time. So I am not opposed to rescinding an action that I was in part of before, I would look to my colleague
agree.
to find out.
No, I agree. From what I recall, I don't believe we actually engaged members of Gardens for Nutrition in that decision or discussion, so I would be fine with agreeing to their wishes. And
So it seems like the board at the time, the gesture was coming from a good place. They liked the idea of recognizing former Mayor John Vett and naming the Gardens for Nutrition after Mayor Vett. But no good deed goes unpunished. You know, it creates some additional hassle for the volunteers who run the Gardens for Nutrition. So,
Can we
Rather than-
handle that at this
Yeah,
time?
rather than rescinding it, which we have to know the exact date and stuff, can we just make a new motion to name the planting area next to the water treatment plant as the Gardens for Nutrition?
I don't know.
We just take a new action?
I don't know if that would, well, I don't know what will happen if.
sorry, council?
If there was,
Why don't you do it like, the Mid-Hudson Bridge is the Mid-Hudson Bridge, also known as the FDR Bridge. So why don't you, for legal purposes, keep it the Gardens of Nutrition, and then just allow them as a way to honor the former mayor, also be referred to as that title that you guys had originally noticed.
AKA,
Yeah, it's no different than the bridge.
Great. Does someone want to make a motion and express what Dan just said?
Well, I'm not sure they want to be renamed from this email.
Should we perhaps reach out to them to see what their wishes are, to not
Perfect.
make the same
That's
mistake
what was
twice?
happening last time,
I
yeah.
believe they communicated in
Yes.
their
I
message.
mean, they were pretty clear.
They were
Yes.
pretty clear that they wanted to be called the New Paltz Gardens.
But it seemed like they
Right.
wanted that name because it made their administrative life more practical.
The date of the original resolutions in the email.
Jan
So
28,
I'd
yeah.
like to make a motion that we rescind the motion passed on January 28th, 2015, to rename the New Paltz Gardens for Nutrition.
Second.
Still open for discussion, but do we not want to, do we not?
For discussion purposes, it seems to me that we could find another entity to name in honor of the former mayor.
I agree. Perhaps there's a street that we could come up with, or,
Let's not use up the streets, I have another item later.
Do you want to put this off till next meeting and think about it?
yes, I agree. That's fine. I would like to go ahead with the motion and
Yes.
vote on it.
To rescind.
And
Yes,
let's put another
And then-
discussion of naming, okay, something on the next agenda.
yes.
You live with that, Tim?
I prefer that we just table this motion until the next meeting. I'd rather not.
Not rescinded prior action?
Because I feel like Dan's suggestion actually makes some sense. We could continue to have the legal name of the Gardens for Nutrition to be Gardens for Nutrition Inc., or however it was referenced in that email, and then with some tribute to former Mayor John Vett, but it's not that the new official legal name would be the John Vett Memorial Garden. I think that's what they were trying to achieve, and it might be worth speaking, as Dennis suggested, with the gardens folks if they would be okay with that. As I read the email, they were troubled by the name change because it just made a lot of other.
It had legal implications.
Yeah.
It did have, it had
501(c)(3).
legal implications
Yeah.
rather than.
I didn't get the sense that they were for or opposed to memorializing the garden with a recognition of former Mayor John Vett.
Let's ask them, that's fine.
So can we table it until the next
Yeah,
meeting?
that's
And
fine.
does someone want to, Ryan, or can we ask Ryan, can you send a note to the author of that email and ask exactly that? Is it, would they be okay with some recognition of Mayor John Vett in conjunction with this, but it wouldn't affect a legal name change? Okay, next topic. I'd like to make a motion that we accept this parade application for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation run at Huguenot Street and Springtown Road.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item is just an official recognition that the IRS rate for mileage reimbursement that our village government will be using will now be 54 cents per mile. I'd like to make a motion that we accept this new change.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item, just formally recognize and thank Prospect Street resident Bill Murray, who is currently a planning board alternate, but a very active planning board alternate who I believe probably has perfect, if not near perfect attendance at planning board meetings. He's also serving on the master plan committee, but we appointed him to the county planning board, so he's serving along with village planner David Gilmore, and the Ulster County Legislature approved his appointment. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Murray, and just, I thought this was interesting, and I would just share this with everyone. I guess the way that the county planning board works is if you have a member of, so Bill will now be a member of the county planning board, and let's say that there is a project before the county planning board that's from New Paltz. Bill has to step away from the table as a planning board member and not be involved in that vote. But what is interesting is that because David Gilmore has been appointed as our representative on the county planning board, he would not have to step away from the table because he's not a planning board member. He's staff and coincidentally a village board resident. So it's kind of an interesting thing in that we still have some representation with David at those meetings because he's not a planning board member. So I don't know, it's just kind of interesting details. Next, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this resolution affirming the selection of the consulting firm for the engineering design for the sidewalk project that we're receiving federal funds from. I think we have that resolution here, and it's authorizing that we begin negotiations with Hudson Valley Engineering Associates. So this was the outfit that scored the highest during our review with our review board that included the planner, the superintendent of public works, myself, and treasurer and the treasurer for the village. So all in favor of this motion that was included in your packet to begin these negotiations?
Second?
Or now all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So do we have this NBR, the two proposed? Because we had already set the hearing, or the public hearing for this proposed law change regarding the NBR district, and these were basically just housekeeping items that needed to be sorted out. So this was, so you have that resolution in your board packet. So this requires a roll call. This is related to a public hearing for the village code change to section 212.13G, where we're declaring ourselves lead agency for seeker purposes and referring the proposed amendment to the Ulster County Planning Board.
Discussion, just question. It may just be because I'm not familiar with the paperwork, but it looks like the short EAF form, there's a lot of boxes that aren't checked off. Page 2 and page 3 of 3. And they're numbered item 16 in our packet. But so 16.3 has one box on item number 1 that's checked off yes. There's no other boxes checked off yes or no in the entire form, except for page 4, or the very back page. So I don't know if, I just
Yeah, I
didn't
see
know
what
if
you're
that
saying.
was a good thing or not. Because it's, the signer of this form is the village board, and I just see a lot of unchecked boxes, and I don't want to.
Okay, let's, can we have our clerk's office double check on whether this paperwork is complete or not? And put it on the next agenda.
just caught that at like 6:30
Thanks,
tonight.
thanks, Don.
It also says, hearing was set for 2/24.
Well, we set
So-
a public hearing.
Okay, got it.
So what we were doing, what we were trying to do tonight was just referring the law up to the county planning board via a roll call motion. But I don't mind, I don't mind waiting on that. Yeah, I would also appreciate clarification from, if our clerk's office could double check with our planner that all of this is clear, because it's not clear to me either.
Yeah, it also says that there should be a narrative attached, which I don't see.
Okay. Then we'll wait to hear back from you, Ryan, on this. So next topic, 17, setting a public hearing. So this is, if we choose to override the tax cap, this would give us the ability to do that. We're reviewing the budget currently. The tax cap for the village is 0.12%. So that might be a little tricky as far as staying below that, considering that we have a requirement to pay our union employees 2% raises. Plus we also have expenses for things like health insurance that have gone up greater than 0.12% since last year. So
Yeah, that cap's really well thought out, isn't it?
well, at the NICOM conference, there were several state legislators there, and they were like, "Yeah, we never anticipated this kind of low inflation environment. Sorry about that." So,
By the way, I would like to say also that many municipalities passed this as a matter of, again, prudence. In case it arises as a necessity, you've already taken action, rather than acting after the fact.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to doing it. Is there a benefit to us to do it at this point? Sounds like there is.
I think there's a benefit just in that it's like it's a housekeeping item. So if it's a tool in our tool chest, if we choose to use it, we can.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm all for, and I spent several more hours today working with our DPW staff and our treasurer to figure out where we can spend less money. So we're going to find out what our tax increase is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we need the document that was in our paperwork. Both Don and I noticed that it seemed like it included the wrong names for the trustees.
Yes, it does. I thought this was a historic document,
Yeah, I thought so too.
or historical document.
So it's like some of the document was edited, because it definitely talks about a public hearing will be held by the village board on February 24th, 2016 at 7, but then the names up at the top were incorrect. But you can do a roll call now, Ryan, so.
Just use the right names.
Yeah.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rotzler,
Aye.
Mayor Rogers,
Aye.
Trustee Rocco,
Aye.
Trustee Carey.
Aye.
So that, so we have set a public hearing for this proposed law for February 24th. That's at our next meeting at 7 o'clock. All right. And then we received, next item, we received a memo from our treasurer about reimbursing folks for unused sick time and vacation time, and this is important from an auditing perspective, just to remove this from our books. When we keep these liabilities on our books, the accountants don't like it. So I'd like to make a motion that we make these payments as suggested by our treasurer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then next item, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the suggestion from Deputy Treasurer to provide a buyout for health insurance coverage from one of our DPW staff.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So just, sticking with the order of things, we need a roll call motion for bills and claims.
Trustee
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Robson,
Aye.
Mayor Rogers,
Aye.
Trustee Rattler,
Aye.
Trustee Carey.
Aye.
Okay, and then what else, what did I have next, the things that I added?
Carmine Roberta Bridge.
Right, so I'd like to make a motion that we accept and this is of timely importance to get this IMA to the county. This has to do with the agreement between the village and the county in terms of the Carmine-Roberta Bridge project and the village's water line that is currently on the bridge that will be replaced and updated when the new bridge is constructed this summer. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the intermunicipal agreement between Village of New Paltz and the county as reviewed by Attorney Will Frank.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What was the next item?
Tax lien foreclosure sale.
So I'd like to make a motion that we actually have to do a roll call on that as well.
I don't think I've ever done so many roll calls in one meeting.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Robson,
Aye.
Mayor Rogers,
Aye.
Trustee Rattler,
Aye.
Trustee Carey.
Can we just second? Aye.
What was next?
A resolution about small cities grant.
Sewers.
Great. So that one is where exactly? Where that went. Here it is. Okay, so we have this resolution where it says that this is basically related to the small cities grant of approximately $600,000 to respond to the DEC consent order. So we are adopting this what is the correct wording here? Right, I guess we are accepting that this is a type 2 activity for the purposes of secret and no further review is required. So we have a printout of this resolution. We just need to change the date because it had been January 27th. We just need to update that to February 10th.
Second as amended?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. What did I have after that?
ENCB, Mr. Daniel Torres.
Got it. So you were added to our agenda to comment on your discussion. You want to just come to the table and grab a mic?
Hey guys, so to follow up on the conversation we had at our joint meeting, the ENCB met last week and I spoke with them again about the proposal. I originally spoke to the chair before our meeting just so they were informed about what was going on. The members were excited about the idea of getting to potentially review village proposals. I mean, these are people on the committee who really enjoy these things. They did discuss possibly what it would mean with the added work if they would have to have an additional meeting per se. But they liked the idea, and among members of our board, there's always been a contingent who's wanted to look more into policy, and because that's not the role of the board, they haven't done that. So there was even a discussion among one or two other members to like that idea of maybe even shifting to do both potentially as something they would want to do because they would be eligible to serve as a town resident where they presently are not now. So generally, overall, I thought they were very open to the idea. They'd like to know more about the structure and how we're going to move forward with this, but no one on the board indicated anything truly negative about it. I thought they were rather excited about the idea. And they also acknowledge too, you know, the idea that it is hard for the village to fill a board like that, and they liked that they would be able to contribute in that aspect as well. So I don't know if anyone has any specific questions relative to that.
I don't have a specific question for you per se,
Yeah.
but just, I wonder if maybe a policy revision could open up our boards to members of the town that wanted to serve on them without actually, you know, separate of whether we choose to commingle
Sure.
the responsibilities of the boards or not.
Yeah, and I mean, that's
But-
definitely.
That's been the idea, is that, so the village EPC,
Well, I'm not talking specifically about this. I'm saying we have an opening on any of our boards. We cannot fill it with someone from the village. We should say, okay, if someone in the town would like to sit on that board, we can accept them. I mean, it sounds like right now there's members of the town on the ENCB that would potentially
the
be
policy
interested in
aspect,
serving on
sure,
the
yeah.
EPC. So I wonder, you know, regardless of what we do with these specific boards, I wonder if maybe a policy revision might be in order to open up the potential pool of candidates for all of our boards.
Yeah,
Interesting,
And
yeah.
that's certainly a discussion for your board, not me
Right.
here. But what I liked about this one, and just for why this works so well with the town too, is that they also really liked the idea of being able to review your proposals from the planning board, which are currently not being done now. You know, what I really like about, you know, we have a lot of discussions about consolidation through the years and municipal boundaries, and I've always said that I think that the people who think the most about those lines are elected officials, right? But the community at large thinks about New Paltz as New Paltz. So I really saw that in the committee as well. You know, they like the idea of being able to help out their community by being able to review these proposals that are not being reviewed presently.
I don't have a comment on that. I do want to add to the discussion that our EPC should be fully constituted by the next meeting. We should have full 5 members from the village. The members of that board has been pushing for over a year to be in a position to be a board and to review village projects. They've been pushing hard. What they're lacking is the GIS maps that would allow them to move from a commission to a board. Last summer, they made a volunteer available. The village voted money for GIS software, and for reasons of personal schedules and things, I'm not quite sure what the specifics are, it didn't get done. But that wasn't the fault of the EPC. They have been pushing hard to become a board and take on that responsibility. They very much want to. And I appreciate the desire to have the town board do it, but our own village EPC wants to do this work. And if we
But
can
I
just
think
get the
that's
GIS maps in place, they can.
but I think that's the point, is we would no longer have a town ENCB, we would have a town and village board that reviews planning board applications.
I understand, and that would be, I just want to choose my words very carefully. That would be inconsistent with the original concept and the vision and desire for the EPC, which is not a very old organization. And I just, you know, I don't, we all agree on the goal. I feel that we're not supporting our current village EPC as enthusiastically in this regard as I would like to see. If we can just get them the GIS capacity, we can achieve the goal. So I don't understand, you know, I'm done. That's
Don,
my point of view.
if we were to get them GIS capacity, would they then just become a review board, or would they also be a policy board as they currently are? Would we lose that function if they were to take on planning board review?
That's not my understanding, but that's a question that, you know, I haven't looked into specifically. And we can know that by next meeting.
I don't want to venture too much into town, so can I just make a comment to that as well? And this is obviously a discussion that you guys are going to have and come to a solution on it. But from a town perspective, one thing that I like about this idea too is that presently you have a board that, we'll use the plastic bag ban. You 2 members actually here who are on that board. You made that proposal, the village board passed it, that's great. One of the largest users of plastic bags is the town.
you know, and there is no one really to propose that because we don't have a board to do that with the exception of just ourselves. And one of the reasons why we have these boards is because, and you guys know it as members, there are certain areas that are very interesting that you like and you only have so much time. So you have these other boards to look at these things to be able to push those items. So certainly you have your own village agenda you have to work out, but from a town perspective, what I really liked about this too is that it would also force the town board to listen to some of these policies that presently no one is bringing before us. So that's just an element too in changing the structure that I think would have a larger community benefit.
I will be at your next meeting proposing a plastic bag ban in the town.
Good stuff. So.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Can we, well, I think two different things. I would like to continue to look at this ENCB and EPC concept, as well as Dennis's idea of, does it make sense to have some sort of process for opening up all of our boards or commissions to more than just village residents if someone is interested in serving or volunteering. So we can put that on the next agenda for discussion. Does that make sense? Okay. So I believe the next item that I had involved the sales tax discussion. You've probably read in the newspapers that the county exec was proposing a change to how much sales tax the towns in Ulster County receive when the county collects sales tax revenue, and then they keep a significant amount of it to run county operations, and then historically chunks of that revenue is shared with the towns for the town's own operations. And there has been some discussion about changing the percentage that is sent to the towns. But what I'm actually interested in, and I know I'm not the first mayor to look at this, because I believe that former mayors West and Duncan also looked at this, because I spoke with Treasurer Bronco about this, is that in one of the newspaper articles they were saying how the towns within Ulster County receive this revenue, and 2 of the county's 3 villages receive this revenue. So Ellenville and Saugerties. And my understanding is the thinking is that the town of New Paltz receives this revenue, and this revenue collected from the county goes into the town's A fund, and that's fine because the A fund is used to support and provide for both village and town functions. But what I would like to do is just kind of like neaten up that paper trail a little bit and understand and maybe even come up with a formula. So currently the town of New Paltz is receiving approximately $250,000 in revenue. Does that revenue then go into the A fund for the town and the village, or the town including the village? And then instead of, because you could go down a path and say, hey town, we actually want our portion of that revenue sent over to the village, but I'm actually comfortable with that money staying in the A fund, assuming that it is paying for projects that benefit our village residents. But I would just like to see, let's say it's, and I'm just making this up, X% of the $250,000, which would be earmarked for the village, is going towards the town's A fund for, just so we have a rough idea of what that revenue is from a village resident perspective. So in the future, when these discussions are had, or when it's reported on in the newspaper, we'll know that it's not a situation where the village is not participating in this revenue, but we actually are receiving some of this revenue, and it's being spent on X via the town's A fund. So wanted to just share that with you guys, see if you had any feedback or thoughts.
I'm just going to beat down to the punch and give you kudos for your close attention to detail in all matters of taxation and making sure the village is getting every penny we deserve. Thanks. It's the recurring theme of the meeting.
And then, next item, so we'll report back if, and Dan and, councilperson Dan Torres and I were talking about trying to identify what that formula might look like, and then just if we could have a formal agreement between the town and the village, because what I'm anticipating is when we all move on and in year 15 from now, there's going to be some new mayor and saying, like, how come we don't get this revenue from the county? You know, what is the village's share? You know, why is the town getting that? And it's like, if we had an agreement between the town and the village, and we can say, oh, well, it's based on this, here's the formula, and, you know, this is what we do with the money when we put it in the A fund. So just kind of creating a neater paper trail.
Yeah, and it could be something that's a part of our reorg meetings, both at town and village levels.
Sure. Sounds good. Next item I wanted to share with you, I met with the owner of 45 Main Street, that's the parking lot and the post office building, about the concept of some sort of public space that the SUNY professors shared with us in terms of they're interested in investigating doing something at that property. And Peter Kempner was very receptive to the idea. You know, not that he was greenlighting anything, but it was just good to walk the property with him. And Rich Gottlieb from Rock and Snow was there, and our planner David Gilmore, and professors Frank of photography, and Emily, and I'm drawing a blank on her last name, who's a professor of sculpture, were with us. And then in spirit, the professor of architecture at UBuff and the professor of renewable energy. Those are the four professors who are kind of you know, pushing this project forward. But the owner of the lot, or Mr. Kempner, was receptive to reviewing a reconfiguration of the parking, and he was very appreciative that I was insisting on any change or reconfiguring of the parking would end up in, at worst, the same number of parking spots. I kind of have this fantasy, if there are 54 parking spots there, that even when we reconfigure it, we end up with like one or two more. But that is the goal. Additionally, there is the access between the mobile property and 45 Main Street, which we all know has that super wide, incredibly dangerous, you know, large section, and that's really the opportunity here. If we could kind of narrow that section and make some other tweaks, could we use that land differently than we're currently using it? But I also communicated with the chair of the Transportation Implementation Committee about the idea of maintaining that access, like the town has an access management law which encourages access between properties like that. So the idea is, if you purchase gas at Mobile and then you need to go to the Jamaican Choice restaurant to buy a veggie turnover, you can just drive through that right of way versus going back out onto the state roads. And you know, the idea is this type of access management helps with traffic mitigation. So everyone at that meeting was on board with that idea that, you know, we wouldn't forfeit that right of way because we like the public square. You know, anything that would be done would include, you know, the continuation of access between the properties.
Terrific.
So that's all I had.
Okay.
And I have the report
Maurice.
on my communication with Celia Cuomo, who confirms for me that the family would prefer the street naming as we had proposed once before, rather than a sports-related facility of some sort.
Then the baseball field
Yeah,
idea.
right.
Okay. All right. So we'll
To figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else before?
I've reached out to the DOT on how we do that, and they told me that we have to petition our senator, I believe they told me. We have to petition either the senator or the governor to get it changed.
The senator.
Oh, because it's a state road.
Because it's a state road, we have to get their approval to change it.
So in case that wasn't picked up on the mic, Ryan was sharing that to change the name of a state road, you would have to petition a state senator. Interesting.
Or the governor.
Or the governor. Or we could maybe consider a nearby village road as a, you know,
For example, Mulberry, on that
Right.
one block that might run alongside this currently projected structure.
Let's look into Plan A and know we have a Plan B.
Exactly, yeah.
I wonder if Deputy Supervisor Torres' suggestion regarding the Gardens for Nutrition and having the also known as name, would we be able to apply that to a state road or no?
I think that county emergency services would not like that idea,
Okay.
but I would say that the way it works is that you would ask the state legislator for an enabling legislation to change the road. So the village board would have to pass a resolution, which was a specific resolution to ask the legislator to do it. The legislator would vote on it in both houses, and then the governor would potentially sign it. It's just what happened for the veteran who died in the town of Rochester, where they changed the state road. It's the same process.
okay. I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
I wanted to throw something on a future agenda. Let me just bring it up here. It's not 9 o'clock yet. I'd like to talk about the concept of a campus fire brigade. There are some colleges in New York State that have a campus fire brigade. They have a building on campus, and the students who participate in the campus fire brigade, in some instances, are provided free tuition or reduced tuition for the purpose of responding to calls on campus. We have our volunteer fire department has to respond to calls on campus as well as the village and the thruway, and they're making a lot of calls. And so I want to give a shout out to former Mayor Dungan for having a discussion with me that I'd like to maybe talk about this as a board at a future meeting.
I can comment. I've also asked the fire chiefs about that, and their response is Scott Schulte, who has an effort up at the college in terms of engaging students in emergency services. It's kind of like, it's definitely not quite a fire brigade, but it performs a similar function in terms of engaging students. And Chief Weeks and Chief Worthman have actually been, have spoken really highly of Scott's efforts in terms of college student engagement. You know, maybe we could even have Scott report to us just to let us know what exactly he's doing up there, because from all reports, it seems like he's doing some important work in terms of student engagement. Because that was when I've spoken with them about the idea, something similar like a brigade at the college. That was the response that I received.
Well,
You want to do that? You want to have Scott come? I mean, because I would love to learn more and hear directly from Mr. Schulte about what they're doing.
yeah, well, the initiative I have heard, I think it was at this table at some point over the past year or so, that the college president has been, has stated he's open to the concept of perhaps building a small fire station on campus. I didn't hear that directly, it's just, and I know that in our fire truck rotation program, there are 2 trucks over the next 5 years which are probably due to be retired. And you don't make much money when you sell 20-year-old trucks. So the thinking would be, if we have 2 trucks that we're going to sell for a couple $1,000s a piece, and we have the possibility of some working with the college on this, it might be a nexus of some, if there's some way to take some pressure off our volunteer fire department, yeah, I'd really love to do that. So that's where so I don't want to have the discussion tonight, I just want to put it on the agenda, and I want to let you know that's what it means when we say campus fire brigade.
I'm up for that.
I think you're referring to a comment that I made after I spoke with college president Don Christian. They're open to the idea of making land available for something like that, but the cost of constructing a project is a totally different story. And when I've spoken with the current chiefs about how they view what would work best for our community. They, you know, I really push them on a variety of different iterations of, you know, what would serve the community best in terms of firehouse locations in there. And I've, Supervisor Betez and I have relayed some of this to the folks at New York Rising, and you know, the two places where we should really be focusing as improving Fire Station 2 and turning that into the main fire headquarters, and then creating a satellite station west of the Wallkill up at the water treatment plant. So that was kind of, if we were to use New York Rising money to improve our emergency operations center functionality, it would be via those two locations. And that's what the New York Rising folks are kind of circled wagons around and are getting back to us in terms of feasibility of those two concepts. But
Well, I wouldn't mind inviting Scott just to let the department know through him that we're thinking about ways to, you know, to reduce the burden. So
no, I like the idea of hearing directly from Scott, because
Sure.
I think it actually has been really encouraging, and that folks have spoken really highly about the work that he has done and what he has accomplished on campus in a relatively short period of time. And
great.
I think there actually was some concern that he was going to take a new job somewhere else, and what I've heard more recently is that he's actually staying put. So our community is going to benefit that that he's continuing to stay
Yeah.
engaged in the college.
Through his work and others, the calls, the amount of calls have definitely been reduced over the past few years.
Anything else before we adjourn?
Are we doing executive session or are we going home?
Do you want to? You want to talk about anything in exec?
I actually have a 30-second item.
Okay,
I'd
so-
like to make a motion to move an executive session to speak about the specific history of a specific individual. I think that would cover it.
Second?
Okay, so then we're not anticipating taking any action.
Yes.
No, and I think it should be very quick.
But you're saying it's quick anyways.
I'm leaving this for you. Not that you need more work, but I just thought it would be of interest and maybe fruitful.
I don't know if I have the energy for those type of shenanigans. Took the GRE today. They're great. Where did you go to school? I did my bachelor's here, my master's I'm finishing up here. Humanistic and multicultural education. Okay, so this is relevant. Because I have an emphasis in non-profits and higher education. I basically replaced the word education throughout everything I read with therapy. Okay. Because my friend's mother and he committed suicide in Halloween 2013. And we started a non-profit for suicide awareness.
I think I remember there was an event.
Yeah. And my ultimate goal is to be the executive director, running the business model, but also coordinating and running the research at the facility, like the therapeutic research. So the program was actually wonderful for helping me develop like a self-sustaining model for a community and all the different ways that I could make education therapeutic. But now I need to get a PhD to actually teach myself how to write grants and accounting and
PhD for that?
if I want to be qualified to do the caliber of research that I need to do, yeah. I just applied to UNC,
Nice.
and if I don't get in there, I'll apply to UVA.
Cool. 6 credits away from a master's degree.
Nice.
I have been for some time. It's my goal for 2016.
What's it in?
Integrated marketing communication. It's a fancy way of saying using new media communication. So, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Not as deep as.
I'm taking my research research class now. It's my last one. Can't wait to be done.
And so you do night classes?
It's like night classes. My research is on Tuesday nights.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm online, which is quite an experience.
No, yeah, I've never done that.
I'm happy I've done it this way because it has allowed me to live my life. But there's certainly quite a bit lost, without a doubt.
Without being in the classroom?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I enjoy that back and forth anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a big part of it. And I usually contributed to class discussions and classes I liked. But also I feel like they really try hard to generate discussion. It's just not authentic. Like I was actually talking to my intern today who was a city student. This is a typical assignment. They'll say, read article whatever and write a 500-word blog post, right? And then it'll be, before Wednesday, respond to 3 blog posts with at least 250 words. So then everyone's like writing these canned responses because they know what the syllabus says and like what you're supposed to respond in order to get full credit. And it's just total, you know, the whole thing's like, oh, Joe, this is a great post. I really agree with this. And it's reminded me of our reading yesterday from me. Just like, it's, you know, not authentic at all. So, it worked for some people. It worked for me in this case, but
Yeah.
you definitely lose a good amount of time.
How many members are on the town board?
We have a board of 5, which is like,
That's it?
yeah.
Oh, I felt like when I did the joint meeting last time, there was a lot of people on the board.
Just, trying to think if there's anything different.
I mean, I know Dave Merzig was there. There was a couple people there.
Yeah, that's, you know what, that's why, because we have consultants.
Yeah, there's a few of them might have been consultants I just didn't recognize.
So do you, you're doing the minutes now for the village meetings?
I am. I'm some type of cross between a deputy clerk and a personal assistant to the board. Because my job title technically hasn't changed, so I'm still the deputy clerk.
Okay.
But I'm also the personal assistant to the mayor and the board and
Okay.
things like that. So every once in a while, if they have something they need to get done or drafted or checked up on, it will come my way.
It actually amazes me that there's not a specific position, just a confidential secretary for the mayor.
Well, that's kind of me.
But a job that is just that.
Well, I really don't get much from the rest of the board members.
Yeah.
I mean, my office is literally catty cornered, so it's just the back and forth.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, we have essentially that structure too.
Right, but you have a specific confidential secretary.
Yeah, and like I utilize her, and she does assist the board. Her primary job, and the person she 100% answers to is the supervisor.
That's pretty much exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I'm downstairs and someone comes to the counter to pay a water bill, I'm not supposed to answer the counter anymore. Even though I could.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go get Katie or Roseanne or someone.
Okay. That's nice.
And then I take care of the minutes. And Katie takes care of all the other clerk functions, basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I got my little back cave up here.
Hey man, sounds good.
I'm not sure what month my watch thinks it is, but it is. It is not Thursday the 11th.
No, I wish it was Thursday. It'd be good.
Yeah. I can't wait to have nothing to do after work tomorrow. No studying, no reading, no GRE. I can just take my dog to the park, let her run around, and then relax.
You live in the village?
I live above Bacchus. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, kind of above Bacchus. It's the same building. I live above the Lush Eco Salon.
Okay, I know where you are.
Yeah.
That is the go-to post-meeting town village place.
I know. It is also the place that keeps me up at night.
I'm sure it does. I was wondering about that.
If
I have a friend who's told me that they live on a mixture. I was thinking of that. Probably it's noisy, but yours is much worse.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's if this is my bed, or if my bed's up there by that whiteboard, this is probably where the lead singer's head is.
Oh my God, that's dumb.
And they put the band right on the way to the. You've been in there with that band, right?
Yeah, I actually got denied entrance almost the last time I've been because they didn't believe I was over 21.
Really?
Yeah. I was with Tim, and Tim was like, no, he's over 21.
I promise.
And then finally she was like, all right, you seem legit.
Only work for the town government here.
Well, I don't do that. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know, I just like sound like a jerk when you do that, so I didn't pull that card.
I mean, if you're getting denied from the bar.
I'm sorry, what?
If you're getting denied from the bar, I might throw that around.
It's embarrassing.
But in my lease, I have to sign an agreement saying that on weekends there's going to be bands and the occasional weeknight.
All right, well, I'm happy that they at least give you the
Yeah.
heads up, so it's not, you know.
And I mean, the benefits are I can be as loud as I want, essentially. The business closes at a normal business hour, and they're not open on the weekends. And in order to get a noise complaint, you would have to be louder than Bacchus, which will never, ever.
No, I don't see that happening.
But lately, the noise from Oasis, the bass line,
I've never actually been to Oasis.
I could feel it in my bedroom when
That's not-
I live over 100 yards away.
All right, so if you don't mind me asking, how much you pay for rent for a place like that?
$625.
And is it just one room?
No, there's 3 of us there, but my bedroom's pretty large. It's got like 12, 14-foot ceilings. I have a nice space there,
Okay.
right in the middle of town. I don't have a backyard or parking, but
Where do you park?
In my lease, it says that she doesn't have to supply us with parking, but in the village code, they do. So it's kind of like,
Interesting.
and I'm only here for another 6 months. I park next to the Waldorf school.
Okay, that's not that long.
No, it takes me 3-4 minutes to walk to work, maybe 5 minutes to walk to class.
So,
I hardly use my car.
yeah, it's true, I can see it, you don't need it,
Yeah.
which is what we would. So Tim and I went to Bacchus, this is probably like 2 months ago now. We're sitting there, having dinner, at a downforce outside. And we just finished eating, and a leak springs in the roof, and it starts raining down in the middle of our table.
In the restaurant?
Yes. And but like, because it's coming down so fast, it's like splashing off the table, like onto us. And I remember thinking to myself, if this had happened 2 minutes earlier, they would have definitely come up to our meal because
We were balling it through.
they were really good about it, and they ended up giving us like free desserts because we got
So,
and it's just something you would never expect to happen while you're right there. And then
their roof was so shot.
well, the waitress said something like, "Oh yeah, this happens sometimes." I'm thinking to myself, "Wait, you knew that could happen? Like, that's a regular."
It's a possibility, and you didn't fix it.
Just like, yeah, that table sometimes. Like, how does that happen?
Well, their roof is so old. They just had to replace a section of my roof. It took me 2 years worth of complaining to get a leak fixed, and then they fixed it. And she didn't fix the leak, she just fixed the drywall that was wet.
Oh man.
And they put bathroom drywall on. It's mold resistant, not leak resistant. So then eventually they had to replace the whole roof once that started to leak. And then I was like, look, drywall is daily falling into my living room.
That's not cool.
I was like, I have pets. No, this is not, my dog is not gonna go walk around eating drywall off the floor because of your blatant neglect.
That's rough.
Yes.
I mean, I'm in that in between, although now I do have a house where it was like young professional, not wanting specific college rentals, and how hard it was to find a place in town. It was amazing. But some of the places that I looked at, I'm like, I can't believe they rent this place, specifically the village. I'm not gonna name any place. because
Rented because it's so nice that you would wanna live in it, or rented because it's so atrocious? that
It's
you
so
don't?
atrocious that I can't believe someone lived there. And I'm not naming any place because I think everyone can. But I was really appalled.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to do with the market being so saturated. And then, you know what? I thought it was gross. There's someone who bought it. I'm sure.
Yeah. Some college kid who just said, hey, my own apartment without mom and dad? Sure, I don't care what it looks like.
I know. It's cool. So that was my only argument for why the Wilmerite project would have been good if they paid the taxes.
Which one?
The Wilmerite project, if they had paid the SUNY housing thing,
I have no idea what that is.
so there was this huge controversial housing project that ended up getting killed because weren't going to pay taxes and it was going to have a negative impact on the community. My argument had been if they had just paid the taxes, so it wouldn't have negatively impacted us, and then they had the housing, it would have had a positive impact because it would have changed the rental market too. But, you know, not at the expense of.
It's cold in here.
Pretty sure we're down to 30 seconds.
That's what I.
That's the famous final words. We do it all the time. 5 minutes is half an hour.
20 minutes ago, 30 seconds. Hey, that's okay with me. The longer I'm here tonight, the less time I have to do it.
Oh, is it hours?
I'm not allowed to go over a certain amount of hours a week. So when I come in after hours, I have to balance my schedule. So I will take sleeping in tomorrow. said they were going in to discuss personnel history.
I think it was a particular history or specific individual. Interesting results last night in the primary.
Yeah. Can't say that I'm surprised that Bernie Sanders won though.
I'm not. I'm surprised by as much as he did. I thought he was going to win by a little over 10 points.
Yeah.
This was really interesting to me. He's the first ever Jewish person to win a caucus of primary.
Is he Jewish?
Yeah.
He is? I didn't know that. Although my dad informed me that I thought most of the presidents had just, I guess I really never thought about their religion. I just assumed that they were Roman Catholic or some type of
Oh, yeah, no.
Catholic or Christian. Nope, not even close. Like most of them are not.
Yeah.
Like Quakers and stuff, right?
No.
So, what were they?
I don't think anyone's ever anything. I mean, I think Kennedy was the first ever Catholic. Al Smith ran for president. It would have been 28. No. 20, yeah, I think it was 28 and 24 he ran. And he lost twice, or at least once. I don't remember how many times he was nominated. But it was flawed because he was Catholic at the time. It was a huge disadvantage. So even when Kennedy ran in 60, it was very controversial if he was Catholic.
Yeah, but I mean, Kennedy also had the edge over Nixon. He was just so much better.
That was the large factor. Was Kennedy-Nixon debates.
First televised debates,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
Nixon sweats.
And Kennedy he just looks great. Nixon does not.
Well, that and all the dead people that voted for Chicago and.
Yeah. But
Yeah, Bernie did really well.
so, what are most presidents then, if they're not Jewish or
Christian.
Oh, right, because Catholic is a subsector.
Yeah.
I was born and raised Roman Catholic. I should know
Okay.
this, but I hope no
Yeah,
cloud man or waiting it.
it was interesting. Donald Trump winning, oh my God.
Yeah. I didn't think he was going to win there after he didn't win in Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought that too, but the polling just had him up by a lot the whole time. Same with Sanders. See, but based, again, if you believe the polling, I think they're pretty good. The next few states, I think Hillary's going to take.
Yeah.
Yeah, more conservative, there's a more diverse population. New York doesn't have a primary until April 19th, so we likely won't even know.
Right.
Should be interesting.
I feel like it's a rat race election. All of the candidates are just like all over the place.
Well, two dropped out today.
Did they? I didn't see any of those.
Carly Fiorina and Chris Christie dropped out.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they were not polling well either of them.
Yeah.
We'll see. Interesting stuff.
Dennis motion to leave, Tom seconded. I'm motioning we adjourn.
Second?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. I love this unanimity.
And it
That was.